Thanks to thinkers like Nietzsche, David Hume, and Kant, we are smart enough not to buy the whole Jesus nonsense. Atheism's problem is that it confronts reality's abyss, which is found in the inevitable nihilism, which we encounter at the end of our lives and at the root of our thinking. Christianity offers a different perspective. It claims that nihilism is not true and that the abyss which we can't reach or intellectually interact with is in fact the logos. It lies both at the beginning and at the end of our intellect and meets us when we perish. But does this really work? In this video, we're going to explore the Christian doctrine of negative theology, otherwise known as apophaticism. There are two forms of theology. There's positive theology, and then there is negative theology. Positive theology concerns itself with the parts of God that are revealed to us, where negative theology points towards what we cannot know about God. In the context of Christianity, cataphatic theology, otherwise known as positive theology, deals in Christian doctrines and teachings, such as love your neighbor or keep the Sabbath day holy, while apophatic theology would concern itself with concepts like the Trinity, or the divinity of Christ, or the virgin the virgin birth. So just as much as atheism concerns itself with things that we can know, theism concerns itself with things that we cannot know, things like purpose, direction, and meaning. I must confess that I am not an expert in Kant or in Hume, but I have recently acquired an affinity for Nietzsche, who says that in this turmoil of chaos, it is up to us to create our own values. That's all well and good, but what are these values built on? And is it possible that the foundations of these values can shift? If so, does that mean that our values are dependent on some kind of external force, or a foundation that is impossible to interact with? Christianity aims to answer this question, but is their answer conclusive, or even satisfactory? Well, I'm not in the business to give you an answer to these problems, but to simply posit the question, though I would be remiss if I didn't posit the case for apophaticism clearly for you to make up your own mind. Apophaticism is not really aimed at anything, which is what makes it difficult, if not impossible, to define. Secularism will point to this and claim some kind of convenient nonsense. But is it really nonsense, or is there more to it than that? So let's take the average man, for example. A man that has a desire. He doesn't know where to place this desire. He doesn't know where this desire leads, but he knows that his life is aimed towards something. The secular thinker would probably say that his life's mission is to find out what that something is. And that's all well and good, but what if you don't quite know what that something is? Is there really a sure way of knowing? Christianity says that there is. This is called vocation, and it can only be explored through apophaticism. That seems convenient, doesn't it? Christianity has all the answers, but when you ask a question, they simply point towards mystery. Well, this is where it gets interesting. Yes, whether a Christian or an atheist, or any other belief system for that matter, the answer to all of life's deepest question remains and will always remain a mystery. But the approach to these questions is what separates us from each other. Atheism posits that you create your own meaning, though the mechanisms of this discernment, if we are to follow the Nietzschean approach, resemble some kind of religious or spiritual undertaking, and leave one with, at the fruit of the endeavor, relativism, which is susceptible to psychological justification. On the other hand, a Christian approach is one that guides the believer towards a path of concrete ethics, in which the difference between right and wrong is not a line drawn in the sand, ready to be swept away in the next calm breeze, but a concrete moral standard that puts robust argumentation divorced of any sort of personal affinity towards irrational relativism, and invokes the hard truths of humanism in our plate and chalice. Christianity is thus always going to be the more difficult and strenuous way forward, as it expects the very best of us, the most authentic, sophisticated version of who we aim to be. Can't we just be authentic and sophisticated without Christianity, though? Don't we have enough thinkers behind us and ahead of us to help us reveal the way of the truth? The answer to that question, and that of Christianity, is a resounding I don't know. Whether religious or irreligious, any way of life requires some sort of faith. Faith in what we have decided to be true. Whether we are correct, well, we may never know. Christianity and atheism have a lot in common. We both have questions that cannot be answered. Atheism posits that the answers, well, we make up ourselves. Christianity posits that the answers are external. But the accessibility to this externality is not really something that we can have. We just simply don't have access to God's divine wisdom, to the entirety of the truth. This is the heart of apopathism. However, apopathism is not approached in just like any other way. It has to be approached through cataphasism, through positive theology. So if, according to Christianity, you have a strong foundation, and that foundation is true and logically accurate and agreed upon, then that foundation will carry you forth into apopathic exploration. It's a little bit more of a personal sort of realm of theology in which God's divine will is revealed to you as you progress through life. Whether you're a Christian or an atheist, I think that we both can agree that the answers to the world's greatest questions are a mystery, and we may never resolve them. We may never know where ethics comes from. We may never know what is good or evil, especially in complex circumstances. What we disagree on, though, is how we go on about finding out these truths, the mechanism behind the way we find out whether something is true or false, the way we arrange the facts, and the way those facts come to fruition. And so throughout this series, throughout this channel, I want to find out both the comparative differences and the comparative similarities between an atheist perspective. And by the way, the word atheist is a tricky one to define, as we all know, and a theist perspective. In the atheist perspective, I'm going to be putting forth thinkers like Nietzsche, Kant, and David Hume. And in the theist perspective, it's like St. Augustine, like Thomas Aquinas, like René Girard, Joseph Ratzinger, Balthasar, and thinkers such as these. I think that it's important to understand that both of these have a lot of questions, and it's the way that they address these questions that will give us a glimpse into what life is all about. Thank you for watching.